Oh, no.
It's not a bad thing, it's a great thing.
Yeah. So you're like, sorry, it's actually.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Together.
Okay.
And this is the live stream, so. Awesome, thank you. Come on.
Vague terms or what I said I worked on a product.
And this,
Terms so
this will be recorded and we can share it after.
Yep, yep.
Well, I guess we're following the order.
Exactly, we sat under our
Mine is a cell phone.
It's like a
You know what, yours.
human services.
Mine is like.
What about you? What's mine?
We are integrating employees. Open up for a while here.
Been around for years.
Right.
So I got our live stream going.
I'm sure you've heard of that already.
Yeah,
I will. Probably on my.
I'll go with the shares.
You are? Yeah. I don't know anything about your background, so you could take as much credit as you could be a family member. Well, that's not really. A lot of people are wrong.
You can.
Right.
Just want to make sure.
Recording that. Oh, I'm not the way in.
No, they're
Why not? And they said like full cuts.
Yeah, I am.
Panels before things actually has to be. So, position where or to startup together. And not to if you don't mind. Is there a bit of a contact?
Well, I think part of it is.
So. But at the same time, provide better housing stock. City that.
I'm sure that's.
Hey, everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you to the One for providing the space, especially for the Oracle, also for thank you. So
We
just
just thank you, Oracle.
I'm really happy to all gathering here tonight to talk about technology. How to choose technology on a topic issue is scary. Some people love it, some people hate it. We're lucky to have a really good panel with us tonight. But first, as always, shout out to the corporate sponsors. We're gonna do first. Okay. So first, Valerie, you want to introduce nonprofit Utopia?
Sure.
Hi, my name is Valerie Leonard. I'm the founder of Nonprofit Utopia. You should all have your brochure, so that should limit my time to about a minute or so. Basically, we are an online community, and we focus on leadership development. So our purpose is to develop emerging leaders, make sure that they can learn from more seasoned leaders, such as myself, give one another rich experiences. We do networking events such as this. We do webinars. We have other professional development in terms of courses that you can download. And we have podcasts that we have, once a week. So you can look for the Nonprofit podcast on Blog Talk Radio. And without further ado, I'm just going to tell you to enjoy yourself, read more about us, and I hope you can join us. Take care.
Hi, my name is Linda Steller. I am the organizer of the NetSquare Chicago Meetup group. We are on the Meetup app, and we are a network of volunteers that produce educational seminars and information for nonprofit leaders and founders and employees, or anybody that wants to work on using technology for social good. So we produce free events. We are around the world, and so if you're interested, check us out on the Meetup app, or you can talk to me. And I don't know that we have anyone. We actually have Eddie here. Some people might have Eddie.
Oh, sure. I'll just stand up really quick. You all pick up. But yeah, I'm Eddie. We kind of co-promoted this event with NetSquared, and Net Impact is an organization that's mostly on business schools, but it's the only professional chapter here in Chicago. We host panels and forums from impact investing, ESG, to urban planning and sustainability, and we also have a plethora of networking events as well. They're all kind of correlated with, or have the purpose in mind to develop the future business leaders, but through capitalism that elevates humanity ethical and sustainable. So, if you have any questions or want to get involved, see me afterwards.
Oh, and I forgot one thing, we're affiliated with TechSoup.org.
TechSoup rocks.
Yeah, so if you don't know about TechSoup is a nonprofit itself that provides all kinds of hardware, software, all kinds of things, either free or for lower cost than you can get them on the commercial market to nonprofits and public libraries. 501c3 nonprofits, I should say, to be more specific. But if any of you don't know about it, check out TechSoup.org and just see what's there, and definitely sign up for an account because it's free, and once you're vetted, you can have access to all kinds of corporate donor programs.
So a quick thing about NetSuite social impact. So I'm a partnership manager. My name is Robin. I'm a manager of NetSuite social impact. NetSuite is a cloud-based financial management tool that is used across all the different industries all across the globe. Help organizations unify their back office operations. So specifically, NetSuite social impact is focused on providing a service to nonprofits globally. We have a series of social impact programs. We have Steve Hyde representing our social impact programs. So we provide technology donations for a sweet donation. We also provide online learning capabilities, or online learning tools and facilitation to interventions for NetSuite nonprofit users. We also have Speed Pro Bono. So we have NetSuite employees that provide free consulting hours for NetSuite, for nonprofit NetSuite. If you want to learn more, go to netsuite.com/social impact. And also, I'm sure Steve will talk a bit about it in his section. Okay, so next step. So our glorious list. So, this is perfect. Y'all are sitting.
It was Debbie's idea.
I like to be organized. I was hoping that each just give a very brief introduction of yourself, 2 minutes. Your name, your background, and also my question here is, give 3 words about how you feel about technology or software selection.
You're in the end.
Okay. My name is Debbie McCann, and I am a partner and co-founder of W Foresight. We are a Chicago-based consulting firm, and we provide consulting services to nonprofit organizations all around the area of software. We do software selection, implementation, salvaging what you have, using it better, making it talk to each other. But we do not represent any specific software platform. We're an independent firm. We don't accept referral fees from any software companies for recommending their products, so our clients can trust that if we're making a recommendation, we're doing it. We're 10 years old as of last week, and I feel really privileged to have the opportunity to work with so many amazing organizations. Mostly in Chicagoland, but also around the country, and maybe one in Australia. So, in my 3 words about software selection, I would say, don't be afraid.
Hi, so I'm Steve Hyde. My current role is I work at NetSuite, and I'm on a team that donates. My specific role is to be the nonprofit tech expert. So I help our pro bono team by making sure the projects that they pick will actually work. I help our team that donates by creating the resources to help nonprofits implement NetSuite. And my background before NetSuite was I worked for nonprofits for about 20 years. So I worked for CARA program here in Chicago. Now they're called just CARA, I think. We changed their name. I worked for YMCA Metropolitan Chicago, worked for YMCA of the USA, worked for YMCA Metropolitan Chicago before that. I was bouncing around there. And then my wife actually started her own nonprofit. So I have a wide range of experience of my wife's nonprofit. Their budget was about $50,000 for the first few years. They hit $100,000. They were really celebrating. So the type of software that she used at her nonprofit was considerably different than the YMCA in the USA. But so that's the background. So I have a lot of different experiences. Most of today I'll be talking about my work at the nonprofit not know what that's. The 3 words I would say is never the same. The process never seems to be the same.
Hi, everybody. My name is Adrienne Ermer. I'm here representing social change and as a board member. So I'm one of the longest standing board members of the organization. I'm sure all of you can speak because you got the invitation to come here today. So I'll leave that for the agenda. But how I like to explain social change is that we are operating in a way to disrupt systems of oppression that intersect with our criminal justice system and those that have experienced incarceration and are leaving our system. So, for example, we tackle this through legislation, so hitting the ground, building coalitions, and passing legislation. And then on the other side is storytelling. So we have an annual film festival in Chicago, New York, and LA, where we tell stories to help bring awareness and advocacy to system oppression and inequity all over the globe. To date, in Illinois, we've had about 11 legislative wins at the city, county, and state level. Nationwide, we've impacted the lives positively of 4 million people who have had intersections with the correctional system or with family members who have intersections with our correctional system. So, leading the organization, about 3 of us. In terms of staff, so our executive director is Todd Belfort. He's nothing short of a lot of his work on his own, and so every now and then the board members we step in for speaking engagements for him so he can get on the plane and go help save the world. So it's really a pleasure to be here. The irony is that I am an MIT grad and I was a biology major, so technology for me is ask an expert. Which these days now with my husband, because he's a cyber guy.
So I was a history major, so my other 3 words are you and learn.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. I feel really happy to have all diverse backgrounds coming at technology from all different areas, and I think it's really valuable for the audience. Okay, so we're going to do something engaging. Ready? Okay, hand raising exercise. Okay, if you work in a nonprofit, raise your hand. Okay, yeah. You don't. Okay. If you work in a software tool every day, raise your hand. If you're scared of that software tool, keep your hand. Okay. And if you're tired of raising
Yeah.
Hold
to make you laugh.
Okay, so I want this to be conversational, so I have some questions. But the first question I hope that all three from your experience, speaking from your experience, what is a warning sign that your organization needs to use technology, and what is the first step in sign?
Really practically speaking, if your version is like 3 or 4 versions out of date, that's like there. But I've, definitely been in small organizations. You make that old version until the 1 to 0 pop off. I think another indicator would probably be you're using a whole bunch of systems and different technologies that don't really integrate with each other, and you have to find yourself making physical reports and doing a lot of the talking together in Excel by yourself, which for small organizations probably isn't as onerous as larger organizations. So I think those are pretty small indicators that I've run into in the nonprofit space.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest indicator is count the number of workarounds you have. It's just do a quick rundown of like how many spreadsheets you have on the shared drive because the software doesn't do something. do a quick, how many manual written procedures do you have, how many reports are you creating outside the system we use. So look for a lot of those things. But often, the first thing I do when I start to think about a new software is I stop and then we talk about, which is reevaluate if we're using the software we have correctly. So before you begin a software selection, often you have to find solutions to figure out what tools you have. And it's not just asking yourself, it's actually doing the software inventory to kind of figure out, then figure out are you using all of it.
Well, the bad thing about going last is that other people say like this. I will support what my two colleagues have shared. I think it's a really visual clue in your work environment if you go down to everybody's workspace. How many post-it notes they have pasted up around their monitor for all the different passwords they're keeping track of? How many?
My husband's like, no!
Like, just that notion of how many disconnected systems that your organization uses. If you have a new a person who is coming into your data ecosystem, it might be a new client, it could be a new donor, a new somebody or other. How many different places do you need to put that person's name in? Like, if just thinking about that one simple thing, I think is a good indicator of how much disconnection you probably have in your software ecosystem. And the number of workarounds, like Steve said, I think is also a really good clue when the executive asks for a report that says, how many people do we serve across the organization? And it takes you a week to be like, And then, if any of you have ever worked in a social service agency, unduplicated count is a thing. You can't count the same person if they're enrolled in two different programs as two different people being served. They're one person. Just because they're getting, job training from one program and maybe some counseling in a different program, unduplicated count counts that person one time. So if you can't get that information in a sustainable way, then you need something.
I like what the common thread is. Goal.
I think one thing I'll add, we're having worked at enough nonprofits to know that often you want new software, but you think you can pay for it. So that's one of the perspectives that pay for this, how you justify it. I think one of the warning signs that we had in my nonprofit we needed new software was I actually was sort of silly, but I took my phone, did some stopwatch stuff. So I walked over to our fundraising person, I said, enter a donation. I sat behind him, timed how long it took him to enter one donation. It was 4.5 minutes. Are you kidding? Every donation takes 4.5 minutes and we get checked with it? He's like, well, that's step one.
You want the acknowledgement letter too?
So he's like, well, then the next thing I do is I give the finance team the answer. And then the next thing we do is on Friday, the two of us spend 2.5 or 3 hours reconciling the fundraising system and the finance system. So I'm like, okay, there's my case. I think I just saved this about 30 hours a month, maybe 50 hours a month. I think we can start to look for software.
Yeah, so let's say, let's paint a picture, so you realize all these horrible things by the organization, and you're saying, okay, we need technology. What are some different ways that you structure the selection process so that people who are larger organizations are on the trend, especially when I'm in your experience, how do you, what's that initial choice? What does that mean?
Step one, what problem are you trying to solve? Because you could phone a friend or you could put out an RFP. But if you can't articulate what you need, it doesn't really matter what all your friends say. You ask them, what kind of car should I buy? You have a lot of opinions, but what do you need the car to do? So, using Steve's example of, how long did it take to enter that one donation? The first question to ask is, why did it take that long? Because the software that you have may be perfectly fine. Maybe you need new procedures.
Yep.
Maybe you need training. Maybe your system needs to be configured different. The cheapest and easiest thing you can do is to work well with what you have. So before you take the plunge and make the investment in new software, make sure that that's actually good.
And like, just to piggyback on that, in defining your problem, ask your peers in the space how they tackle these issues, because it might uncover blind spots that perhaps you're not thinking of because there's something more pressing down the road, you can found a solution that might fix your immediate problem. So just that future forethought into determining how you're.
So she mentioned RFPs. One of my favorite sessions that I ever attended at a conference. The whole session was our RFPs were. It was the most fascinating conversation because you had all the consultants and tech people in the room saying RFPs are useless. You guys are asking the wrong things when you submit RFPs. You're doing this whole arduous process. You're only focused on feature comparison. You're not actually the company and supporting the company. And then on the nonprofit side, the nonprofit's like, well, we have to have an RFP because we need an easy way. And we want to be able to compare this software to this software. RFP is an easy way to do it because it's a scoring system, structured way to compare apples to apples. Because if you just have vendors stand up in a room and say, do a software demo, of course, what they're going to demonstrate is the stuff that's best in this software. So you're not going to see the same stuff in this software as in that software. So I think if I was planning out the actual selection process, I think you have to have a little bit of flexibility with some structure. So the way we did ours at Kara is we did it in 2 stages. We did a very light touch, kind of figure out who we liked in general. We like the company, we like the mentor, are they pleasant, are they, what kind of support options, what kind of nonprofit offerings do they have, and then that was our initial scan, and then we honed in on the feature comparison, and then ended again with another round. Are they the right partner for us in the long term? And that was they were allowed to kind of free. So it ended up being a little bit of an arduous process, but it was a major decision for us. So I talked a lot, and I think.
Well, I think one thing I'd like to add is just how important it is before you engage in the selection process, assuming you've decided you really do have a software. Develop requirements. They might be specific features, they might be more business process descriptions. Have something concrete that you can use as your guiding principles for the discussion, because it's very easy to get distracted by cool features. Even if you're just watching a YouTube video, right? Like, wow, it has this awesome tool for planning your golf outing. We don't do golf outings, It's very easy to get distracted by stuff that is not critical to your organization. So if you take the time to get the input of your colleagues to document what is actually important to you, what would actually make the project successful. Like if you can envision a year from now when this tool is up and running and we've been using it for a while, how will we know that this was the right thing? What will have changed? And get those things out on the table so you can remind each other when you get distracted by the golf outing, you don't need what was really important about the selection process. And I think the process Steve described makes a lot of sense for a big selection. And I think you just have to keep in mind for smaller systems, those vendors don't do demos. They don't travel to your office.
MailChimp versus MyAmazon.
Yeah, exactly. They are not interested in talking to you at all. They don't answer RFPs. You have to do your own legwork. And I mean, obviously, you can develop the expertise in-house. You can hire a consultant to do it, but you do have to be prepared that the vendor for these types of projects, they're not going to help you.
Yeah, I know what I'm processing specifically with the end user, so like knowing your workforce, and who's going to be utilizing this technology, and how a company is either culturally competent or institutionally competent for the sector. And we run into this a lot in government as well. Not every government employee is created equally.
Oh, how timely.
And in understanding how a user adopts new technology is really important, and having that capability to patient or having a dedicated staff person or consultant that can be there to help implement this, because you can have any number of folks that have made in a large institution use this technology really proficiently, but it's also not part of their job description to train somebody in finance to use it as well. So just being cognizant of that, folks who are differently able, folks who, just who are elder or more senior in your organization, and they just have not had technology in their lives for as long as some of the millennials who are in your organization. That makes a really big difference in terms of adoption of technology and new software. So just those sorts of inspiration.
Or you can actually use
Makes me think a lot about how we've all heard those stories of like that one person kind of uses it, and then they laugh.
And it's like, oh my God, what's happening? Or gift words, or it's like, yeah.
All screwed up.
Can I make one more suggestion?
Yeah.
Just because, like we're describing, the vendors are gonna be a wide range. Some will take a lot of time to do, some will spend more time to do. Read reviews. There are so many review sites now.
Your favorite one?
G2 Crowd, I think, is helpful. Capterra is helpful. Software advice. Especially read the negative. People love to complain. And if they're specific about the feature that was missing, so helpful. Like, oh my God, I had no idea to even ask about XYZ. What do you mean you can't use or statements in queries? Never in a million years would have occurred to me that you can't do that. Or that it doesn't save a copy of the merged letter. You don't get to use Microsoft Word to edit the letter. You gotta use their funky tool. Or it doesn't integrate with the merged platform. You gotta use theirs, and the templates are terrible. Read the comments. People, just like, reading anything on Facebook or newspaper comments or whatever, like, there will be the crazies, but when you see enough consistent things and enough people saying this feature or this review was helpful, those are the ones to because references that the vendor provides are only going to say good things. They're not going to
So kind of on the same topic, what are some lessons y'all learned? What are, can you tell a story that something went well? You had to interact with technology, software, either these friends or
I go back to the government. It's because it's a very large enterprise and people have different relationships with technology. In general, it's outside of your cell phone, it's like, what? I think that your rollout and your change management is critical there, and being very strategic with your consultants, sit down and phase it in ways with your most critical users first, and not rolling it out all at once. This may or may not have happened in an institutional government to which we all pay taxes. But yeah, the all-out rollout is probably not your best bet, just from personal experience. You want critical users first, and then start introducing it into your other user agencies and business units that may have less interaction or intersection with it from a utilization basis. And then also making and creating the space for folks to come back multiple times to learn how to use the technology. And then listening to your user departments or in your business units to say, this functionality or this widget or this metric you're asking for doesn't comport with the actual practical work of our unit, And we need to translate that into something else, because what we're going to give you is something that we literally just made up to put in this box for you. Because it's not something that we measure, or that's not how we measure it. So, being very thoughtful on that front end, and also that continued conversation piece has been something that I've learned to make that transition enterprise-wide much more smooth.
So one of the things that the cloud was supposed to fix when I was first told about the cloud was that the dream would come true, that all of our data would exist in one spot. But the like I was told when I worked a long time ago, one of the biggest problems I always had with selection is that it was owned by each department. And each department would go off on their own process, on their own steps, and pick their own software, never considering how the organization would work. So I think that's one of the things that I really see lacking. The cloud is supposed to fix it, but it doesn't. Because now what you see is your marketing has their own cloud, your fundraising cloud, your accounting cloud, and it's just the exact same problem, it's just on somebody else's servers. So I think that one of the things that I did when I was with Kara was I said, nope, I'm going to pick two platforms. One platform is how we manage our board, one platform is how we manage our program. So internally, we use Office 365 for basically everything. So if somebody said to me, I really want to be cool and I want to start using Trello for project management, I'm like, nope. Microsoft has a similar clipboard thing that's part of SharePoint. We're going to use that because we're not going to have 3 different project management tools. It's just not going to work because as soon as you meet with a Trello user, nobody knows how to use it. So I think picking platforms, or at least picking groups of technologies that work together, has to be a key part of your selection process. And even when you're small as you grow, because as you grow, you're gonna just keep using what you're doing.
I think a huge lesson that many of my clients learn the hard way is that some of their software selections have been influenced by people who didn't necessarily have to live with the day-to-day ramifications of the decision. Board members are awesome and supportive and all of that, but perhaps they had some interest in a specific decision. And you have to right-size the complexity of the tool to be sustainable by your organization. Unless you know that you really have no internal capacity to support a tool, and you're going to outsource the support, and you're going to rely on consultants to make sure that you have what you need. And if you can do that, that's great. That gives you much wider flexibility in what you choose. But if you know that that's not part of your budget and your future, don't pick the most complicated tool to configure and have to use. Salesforce, bad choice. It doesn't matter how flexible it is and how awesome it can be configured to do anything if you don't have anybody to do it. And I'll pick on Salesforce because so many people are like, it's free for nonprofits, you get 10 free licenses. Like a puppy is free. You have to pay. You have to adopt a puppy. It is not free. And if anyone here is representing Salesforce, I don't mean to, it is a fabulous platform. It can do so many things. But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so there are many tools out there that require far less training and precision in how you use the system so that when somebody leaves, you are not panicking because they are the one person you can have. There are many other choices there.
I just wanted to say, one of my past speakers was the CRM manager for Salvation Army, and they use Salesforce. And he said that exact same thing. It's like a free puppy. And it's like, it is not free. And, it can get very, very expensive. And you need, if you go for a Salesforce or a similar type of product, it can do anything you want, but then you really need to pick a consultant very, very well that really understands what your mission is, what it is you're trying to accomplish. Because since Salesforce can do anything, if it's configured wrong, it will cost you a lot of money to go back through and redo all of that work. So
Let's
it's,
touch on that, like, if you are doing this, like, an enterprise-wide change, especially with a CRM or something like that, what are the fail safes to protect your data? And how do your existing tags of donors and, or whatever, you're using to identify folks in your universe, and how those are gonna comport with the new system and translate over to the new system? Like, all of those measures are super important to your organization. From a utilization standpoint, and then it gets into this new system, it's like, where's our long-term donors list? Oh, that wasn't something you identified in the RFP, so it's not in here. What would I buy? Those things are like, you might overlook them, but they're very critical.
and developers and designers can be very, very literal. So you may think that you're being specific and clear enough, and they will interpret all of what you're saying a different way, and they will give you what you asked for, and it is not what you were thinking that it was going to be. So I don't know if you have some suggestions or thoughts about how to interact if you are going to consult with people, or especially designers and developers. How it is
So
that you.
my first thought when you mentioned designers and developers is stuff. I've been working with nonprofits on their software needs for 13. I cannot think of more than one instance where custom development was the only choice. If you can buy it, do not build it. Now, part of what you're saying applies to configuration also, like setting up the system and labeling the screens with the tools that come with the product. So that warning applies to configuration as well. But do not build something that you can license, because if you pay to build it, they will only build exactly what you asked for. Mm-hmm. And guess who's doing further development and improvement on your custom built product? Nobody. Very expensive.
I would give a take on that one too. When I was at the YMCA, 20 something years ago, the first CRM or the first RFP we put out, was the only question was asked was, is this out of the box or are you going to build it? And that was how we always worded it, out of the box. Then when I did 20 something years later, when I was prepared, we did a similar structured RFP, but the question had to change to what is config versus code versus pre-built. So it's like we had very different features in our RFP, and like so every time they would show us a feature or something, we'd always ask, well, is that come with the software? Is that something you had to turn on, or was that something you had to build to show me the stuff? Or was it there to begin with, or was it something you added? Because it's hard when you're looking at a demo or you're talking to a vendor. It's hard to know what you're going to have to set up versus what is. I think that it's harder, and the shift has started to happen. For the longest time, everybody hated software because you could only do it one way. The software worked one way, and when I worked with on floppy disks, you literally could only do things one way because the computer couldn't do it any other way. And then you figured out that system. All of a sudden, all these custom tools came out, the flexibility was everywhere. Now I see the reverse happening. Everybody's like, no. Don't give me custom right to build it. Everybody's back to what's out of the box and what just comes with the software and works the way it's supposed to. So I don't even have to worry about it. It's like SCC also.
I agree.
It's interesting. Okay, yeah, one off-topic thing that I was going to answer the question on. I'm really good at off-topic.
Yeah.
So, off-topic for me.
It's a lesson learned.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
So it's still on topic, but it's not necessarily. One of the biggest things I always try to recommend in conversations like this is know your decision. Okay? So when you go through all this process to establish a decision, a process to choose software, but then you go through the process, you spend 3 days in demo rooms and everything like that, and then the CEO walks in and says, "Well, I already talked to Joe for the software place. We already bought this. I already signed." Sometimes you do have to know. I think the other thing is going back to the that was assigning it to the right person. So sometimes having a conversation ahead of time, making it be the fundraising or the marketing person instead of the executive director of the board is key. And then deciding to factor that in. Like, are we going to have a vote for final influence and say it's me? Or you go through the process. Really.
But listen to the crowd of people in the corner. Like when there's that one colleague sitting at the corner of the conference table scowling at you, I know. Maybe not in front of the whole group, but if someone's sitting in a demo and looks really uncomfortable or doesn't say a word, something's up.
Yeah, the two people to talk to are the haters, the people that are really mad, and then find the laziest person. That would be me usually. And the reason you want to talk to the lazy person is because they have already found the way to do the least amount of work to get the task done. So that's the process you should probably follow, because if it still accomplishes everything you need to do, but does it in the least number of steps, maybe your process is broken and not your software. So the haters are the lazy.
Another thing.
I think it's all,
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's a really good idea to have representatives. And have
Even
them
if your
identify-
organization has 3 people.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the head of the unit, because you never know, you don't know what your blind spots are when you're talking about solutions like this, because you're not in the day-to-day function of finance, you're not in the day-to-day function of like accounting, you're not in direct relationship with these donors, and you need to know specifically their tags, because when you refer back to them and say, remember at the 2018 fundraiser when you were telling me about this, and that's in their notes, right? So, I mean, yeah, that'll help you in those scenarios, to make sure you're identifying every need of each unit.
Well, I was just gonna add one more thing about, meeting people where they're at, trying to convince people who are barely doing anything now, but they're all of a sudden gonna have to do a lot more work, is probably unrealistic investment for failure. Definitely. And the other thing to keep in mind as you're moving from the selection process into the implementation phase is to recognize that this is gonna be work. Even if you have a consultant supporting you in some fashion, the people in your organization who presumably already have full-time jobs are now being asked to do more. And so if you can find a way creatively to figure out what motivates people, what makes them feel appreciated, do those things. If it's like getting to leave early on Fridays or ordering pizza, or, every organization's culture is different. It has to be culturally appropriate, but figure out what motivates your team and do those things and celebrate even the small milestones so that people don't feel like, oh my gosh, it is so far to completion. Like I cannot even imagine ever getting there. Just get discouraged. Gotta keep people's spirits up.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. That was the question that I had. About looking into culture and during process. I also wanted to just emphasize that, just to get on the mission, that the whole purpose of technology selection is that we can spend less time with day-to-day transactions under the entry, so nonprofits can focus on the mission. So let's look at, talk about the culture of the organization, how we can work for that, also activities. How to do that.
So I'll talk about my experience in SharePoint. SharePoint's pretty straightforward, right? When you have file sharing, you got sign, just do it, right? Well, in my org, we were all about passion and love, excitement, we were all very energetic people, and every department sort of had their own way of working. And so the network guy and I sat down and designed how we were going to roll out SharePoint. And like 6 or 7 months, no one used it. Figured out why. And then that's when we actually had to sit down with each team and we just interviewed them basically and asked about how do you share information, how do you collaborate, how do you communicate, and then started to tailor and roll it out for the team and just address 1 or 2 of their collaboration issues at a time rather than trying to solve all of their collaboration issues. It made all the difference in the world because we got them where we were and tried to adapt and work and try to make the technology match the culture and the way it communicates. That changed everything. Of course, the 2 of us were really happy.
But regrouping and figuring out a different path is way better than continuing to not use it.
Not use it, right? We're paying for it. To go back to the government example, the whole government is doing performance management tracking. When it rolled out to the department that I was in, the agency that I was in, it asked us to track these things that we don't track. Because not just because it's not something good to track, but because it wasn't in a language that functional work of asset management, right? Or project management for that matter. So, there was resistance in that communication between the department and the performance management agency responsible for the rollout of this ginormous piece of technology. It's like, no, this is what we decided we want to know. The people want to know. It's like, oh, the people don't know what asset management is because this is not how it works. Okay, so and that was a long, drawn out fight. But for monthly, we would give them blank spreadsheets because they would ask me, we couldn't give them. But they never had one of us at the table in the rollout and the development of this tool, which is great to have as taxpayers. They do want to know, what are you doing with our money? But not if it's in a pension plan, so it doesn't conform with the work. So that is a big deal. And then I did have an example of SharePoint because they rolled it out at our organization. And like years and years ago, SharePoint was like the new hotness, right? Everybody and all the tech IT guys were like, it's gonna be the best. You're gonna love it. And here's your handout, and that's how you use it. I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. Because I can sit here and read through it and like screenshots. Okay, cool, I get it. But the 65-year-old lady who runs my department, she's gonna need a little more love and attention than a handout and screenshots. So there's that too. Right? The hands-on and the ability to sit down and work through the questions, the functionality for teams.
So I have another example of workplace culture and technology coming up. How many people have ever called 311? Anybody ever called in a pothole or a street light or whatever? So 311 is an enterprise of the city of Chicago. I started my job in the IT department in the city of Chicago 3 days before 311 got switched on in 1999. So here's your desk, here's your phone. Okay, you have 5 departments that you're now responsible for making sure that they're using 311. Day 3. So one of my departments was the buildings department. And so anything related to a building, like, bad landlord, anything related to a building, any of those complaints are supposed to come through my building. All city employees who are basically responding to public complaints are used to having their phone ring and a person talking to them and begging for help. And the person gets to be the one who says, yes, I will send so-and-so right out, Mrs. Whatever. And then the person would call them back and be so grateful. So do you think they were super excited about those calls going to a call center and getting a notification on their computer from a person they've never talked to? Because all of a sudden the thing that made them feel important just got taken away. And so that, I don't know, I was obviously not there during any of the discussion about the rollout or anything else, but I caught the wrath of the building inspectors and their supervisors who were like, you just killed our jobs. And obviously that's not really true, but it took a while for them to get comfortable with the idea that just because they were only responding to the complaint and not taking the initial intake and having the conversation, that was something that they could adjust. So one of the important things to keep in mind is that this is not a democracy. Mayor Daley said, thou shalt use this and thou shalt use this. And so even though we want to pay attention to culture and make people all warm and fuzzy and happy, sometimes that actually is just not possible. But the way to get people to do their jobs anyway, even if they're mad, is that their performance is judged by, how many tickets did they close? How many cases did they complete? So the second you start letting people keep track of their work outside the system is the second your project starts to fail. So when you think about the workarounds that people were anxious to try to figure out, if you or your executive in your organization is like, oh, really, show me, your progress from last week. How much money have we raised? How many clients did we serve? And you allow people to continue to keep track of stuff on the side, your system will absolutely not get used because people are able to, do their jobs and show their success without it. So why on earth would they ever do it?
And we had a mantra, it's not in the name of the system, it's huge, but it never exists.
Right.
Don't ever show me a report or don't ever show me anything
Those
unless
spreadsheets.
you printed it from the system so that I can build it.
So now we're going to turn it to the audience. Ask questions and the dialogue. And you could please say your name, if you're with an organization. And I can choose people. So yeah, okay. My name's Charlotte Green. Freelance marketing, and I wanted to ask a question about, you mentioned a few instances about the continuity in leading. Like, do you have any tools or techniques for ensuring that doesn't happen? I know it's like making sure that
Ensuring the person never leaves.
Okay, you're with knowledge.
yeah, even if there are lots of right? So what do you do? Is there anything you can do to limit your risk?
Documentation to a point, although no one ever reads. I think what's even better than really detailed documentation that no one reads is cross-training. And so that to the greatest extent possible, there isn't one person in your organization who is the only person who ever does blah, blah, blah. That person probably gets sick or goes on vacation. So somebody should be working alongside pretty much any responsibility in the organization, maybe even a couple of them, if you can, so that they actually have a chance to practice. Oh, we've got a big email that we've got to send out to promote our Giving Tuesday campaign. Well, what if the marketing person is there that day? Is there anybody else who has ever sent out the email?
Redundancies.
Yeah.
Individual contributors are great for tech companies, not for nonprofits. So, yeah, so that redundancy. Yeah, redundancy is important. But in a small organization, you can't have that, unfortunately. It's not something that you can work around. Because your executive director can't just do everything. I mean, even our ED still has to have, we still have an accountant that we source out and that's a consultant to us and all that kind of stuff. So, the tinier your organization, the harder it is, obviously. But if you are in a position to size the large organization, but it's also really good for succession planning. As the workforce, as the boomers in the workforce are aging out and retiring, that pipeline is critical to sustainability and livelihood of the organization. It's good planning.
For documentation, I would just have them do enter the screen, print the screen, enter the screen, print the screen, enter the screen, print the screen, and then just turn that into your documentation. And then one piece of paper on the top that is a diagram, simple box of each step. And that's it. That's all your documentation has to be, and that can be super helpful.
Millennials can follow that.
Screencasting too, there's also free screencasting. Where you can narrate your questions.
If we're asking the first question, you get, this is collectible, you can probably sell this on eBay. And it's an original text suite, but it still had the Complimentor on it. It's new, I never wore it. It is black because of the rain.
Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, my name's Matt, and I do healthcare analytics at IBM Watson Health. I was a former social sector consultant. So I feel you in some of the anecdotes you mentioned. I'll sit up for the picture. So Asana was actually my Trello. So everyone insisted Asana would be great, and then they would email that a task was complete. Cool. Defeats the entire purpose of the tool. But I would love to hear a little bit more about government dysfunction in a sense of complex organization. So a lot of my work is at the public sector, with public sector clients or healthcare clients, where a lot of times their technology selection sort of butts up against what their vendor is. So I'd love to hear the way you would think through or advise a client who, for a concrete example, really loves SharePoint. So internally, SharePoint is very beneficial for them. However, all their vendors or the hospitals they work with only use Box, Dropbox, and Google Drive. So how do you weigh the pros and cons of definitely positive benefits, most likely for your organization, versus a significant lift for implementation and interoperability on the vendor side?
That stinks.
That's government.
Yeah.
That is interesting. So we, as a workforce development org, we had to do a lot of government reporting or funding. So we always had that tension of we wanted to use one system, but we had to report to that. And the other report in the sector, we wanted to start sharing data and reporting, and we got the tools, which is why government funding required you to use those so that they could do standardized reporting across all of it. And unfortunately, we never found this was good. Way to get around dysfunction, especially the YMCA when I was there. The YMCA, Metropolitan Chicago, acts a lot like a government agency. They're so big, it's foster care, housing. They basically run small government within the government, and everybody uses their own software. So it's like none of those connected, none of those being shared. I don't know that I have good answer. I shared experience.
I guess the only thing I would say is to try to understand how the decisions get made and what pieces of it could be. Probably not something I have a ton of control over, but as you look at the ecosystem that you're trying to coordinate, is any of it about to be redecided? Who has experienced challenges with some piece of it and they're ready to reevaluate and look for those opportunities? But that's not a magic wand.
Question for y'all. Is it possible to align your systems with your vendors' system, if you have that kind of long ongoing relationship?
When it comes to government, unfortunately, it's basically an ongoing hazing with many organizations that have to send reports to get money. Even in our own entity, this performance management tool, for example, theoretically, all of your departments are supposed to use that to track their metrics internally. And instead it ends up being, okay, at the end of the month, somebody translate our spreadsheets into right there. So even internally, we have battles with these reporting mechanisms. So unfortunately, I have no solution. Government dysfunction is almost, it's part of government, unfortunately. Until the tech companies sit down with government, they say, okay, we're going to make you work really well with everybody else. They don't have to. They're the biggest fish in the pond. They have huge amounts of dollars, put out an RFPs, and really they can just be the one room and say, yeah, this is how we want the gas. So good luck with that. And here's your grant money, some of which you're probably going to use to pay somebody to digest your data for us. I mean, and what agencies end up doing is they add some of those job descriptions. You are now the WIOA person, and you have to enter this for the vets. and it's job creation. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Unfortunately.
I would say that sitting here this evening, the conversation in the room is very enlightening, but it actually sounded no different than being in any enterprise-related discussion, because it really seemed to be talking about organizations of a significant size, a lot of conversations, unfortunately, about the government, and other, large-scale nonprofit institutions. But I sit on the board and tend to work with a lot of grassroots community-based organizations, and a lot of this came off very esoteric. And that is in no way a dig, because I think so much of what you said was so meaningful and so right on, because it was spoken from considerable experience, of which I've had the same in the public sector and nonprofit organizations. But I'm very concerned that sometimes smaller nonprofits and grassroots organizations get left by the side of the road in all of this kind of conversation. And I'd like, because I know the panelists have so much experience that is relevant in this area, if you could perhaps shed, in the few minutes that we have left together this evening, shed some ideas around things that have given you a reason for a positive thought about how changes in technology, some of the solutions that are now available, cloud, mobile, other things that you see as potentially being very empowering and affordable and able to be implemented by mere mortals without some of the reticent concerns that you've expressed with these larger, Salesforce, all these other kinds of things that we all know is the kiss of death without the appropriate support. So could you maybe speak to some things that you feel gives you some reason to think that smaller organizations, I'm talking just like what Adrian was talking about, where the ED, there's only two other people that he or she can talk to, and both of them are in the same building and share roles and responsibilities as board members and chief cook and bottle washer and everything else. So,
Well, I'll give you two very specific things that are pretty, I don't know specifically about what needs you're talking about with these smaller nonprofits, but we work with a ton of them, but not all of them need consulting help either. Almost all nonprofits need to raise money, right? So fundraising tools that are usable and cheap and sustainable by mere mortals, that's a critical feature. Little green light is your friend. $39 a month for as many people who need to use it as you need to. Up to 2,500 contacts. It scales up from there in terms of price. It is the cheapest thing out there. It does everything most nonprofits need to do in terms of fundraising, donor management, and more than some expensive systems. And like I said, we're an independent firm. We don't get referral fees from anybody. But I will tell you that is my go-to. What is it that this organization needs that Little Green Light can't do? Because it is by far the least expensive and easiest to get up and running. The other one that I'll mention is MailChimp. Free for the first 2,000 contacts that you have in your system. And it's like up to 12,000 emails a month, maybe, to those contacts. So if you have, 1,000 contacts, you could email them all 12 times. Those are all the nonprofits need to communicate, and they all need to raise money. Those are two tools that mere mortals can use without much or if any help. Tons of online communities full of people who are happy to give you suggestions and answer your questions at all hours of the day and night. What else?
Yeah, so like I said, my wife runs a small dance studio, Christian nonprofit out in the suburbs. $50,000 a year was her budget. I was their IT person. I was well told. So my basic advice to her, and I've given this to every small nonprofit I've ever talked to, is I said, pick the two things that are making you help you run your organization. Those are the only two things that you should spend money on for technology. Everything else will look for free solutions. So what we did is, it's a dance studio. So we found specific dance studio software it should be. I'm like, if it's going to run your organization, and that's going to be, then spend the money where it matters. So pick the things that are really what I call mission critical versus mission impacting. that doesn't necessarily serve her mission or change the world or anything, but it's mission critical, meaning in order to meet her mission, she has to have it. And so the other one that she spent money on is she bought QuickBooks for her account. But she just needed something that was a little bit better than something free. And then the rest we started going free. We used Google Voice for her phone. We went cheap on like the internet. We just bought like the AT&T $10 a month internet box, and it just sits next to her desk. And I probably she didn't need more. So I went and found free web hosting, free web building, and then we just recruited people from New York and do it. But she specifically created the list of everything she needed, and then sat down like it mattered. But like which two we're gonna actually go and run by board, and we'll get some money, fresh. I'm gonna look at it as free as possible and keep the money away.
And just real quick, if you are a 501c3 organization
TechSoup.
and you vet with TechSoup,
Yeah.
you can get Google for Nonprofits, and that's free.
Yeah.
That's an email with your organization name, and it's a G Suite account. So you may need, it's a lot of tools. You may need somebody to help you figure out how to make the most of it. But you get a lot for free. And it also gives you Google AdSense. It's what, $10,000 of
Yeah,
ads or
Google
something?
AdWords.
I can't remember what it is, but if you just TechSoup.org and Google for Nonprofits, if you just those two things, if you Google those, you can
The one
find
free
out.
tool at the
and-
list is Remind Me. Okay, please ever use Remind Me. Fantastic tool for text communication. A lot of people don't necessarily check email anymore, so she uses a lot of texting. And that's all.
Supposed to remind you about dance classes and stuff like that.
Oh.
Hey, just remind me. Yeah. And there, I've written a couple blogs about that, free tools for nonprofits. That's the main tip I give them. Is leverage the size of your nonprofit. And spend the money on a couple things that you really need to spend money on. But then as a small nonprofit, it's okay to go to vendors and say, hey, I am a small nonprofit of 3 people. Talk to your board members, talk to local vendors. And often it's better to talk to the local vendors than it is the big companies. You know, the big companies will have a standard program that they just say, here's the donation, here's what you get, now go use it, don't talk to me again. But the local vendors often will have a different relationship, and then you can also talk to them about donating to your board, supporting your board, doing pro bono work. There's lots of good things about local.
Hi, I'm Nilesh Patel, founder of Village Class, and we're a small organization, nonprofit. How often would you send email newsletter to your people that follows you?
How often do you have something new and
How often
interesting
do
to
you
say?
recommend? What'd you say?
And you want to make sure, and I defer to the marketing consultants in the room, but you want to make sure that you have something specific to say, and that you have a specific reason to be reaching out to them again, either a call to action, or a benefit that you want to tell them about, or an impact that you want to share. And I think you can probably get a sense from, your open rates about whether you're having the impact that you hope you are, and if not, are you either sending too much email, or are you sending email to the wrong people? Like, how are you sure that the people you're emailing to are actually wanting to receive your?
We'll also look at where you're directing them.
I'm sorry.
Also look at where you're directing them. Just opening the email in itself may not get you to all the steps. So you are on Facebook, AdWords, Google search, parts of your site are those are things that also do. But if you're fundraising, for example, I was working for a nonprofit who's fundraising, and as we were setting up the calendar of one class and how to integrate media, I asked this one question, which was, outside of this project that we're doing right now, is there any other fundraising? Nope, not at all, absolutely not. And literally the week before the outsourcing was coming, and the actual was fluids, and it was sending me this message. Where do you want me to donate the budget plate far? So to your point, when there's new information, but I find a lot of those
full spectrum of touch points that you can contact with folks. You should take that into looking at.
Newsletters are long, your emails, so organizations that I've been part of, specifically membership organizations, we try to save newsletters for quarterly. And then if for the more constant contact, hot topics, probably not more than about 25 lines, because folks they see it and, okay, this is supposed to be a big bite, next, you kind of want to give them something that's for their short term, and then hit them quarterly with stuff that's going to be more of a guide. I found it from a behavior standpoint that's.
If you're a social media person yourself and you consume social media, think about when you are like scrolling through Twitter feed or scrolling through Facebook, kind of when you have time to kill, you're standing in line at Jewel, you're on the L, you're whatever. Those short messages, like if you can get your supporters to follow you on social media and you use that as a way to send short bursts of information more frequently, their brains are wired to consume little bits of information frequently. And the longer stuff, like Adrian's saying, save it for quarterly.
Okay, I'm just wondering, I've heard a lot about implementation, but people are now talking about integrating technology into planning and making sure it's defined, and goals and objectives. How do you actually do that?
There's a book you should buy.
Okay. You want me to write that down?
Here, I'll write it down. Because and 10 wrote a good book on that. So it's managing, meeting our mission. It's from N10.
From who?
N10. Yeah, so if you just search that book has a lot of good ideas on that stuff, on how to do integrating all your different strategic plans, visions and missions. And they actually have a class you can sign up for that will teach you all that. I teach one portion of that, so it's like a 6 or 7 month class, and you take one topic each month. And one of the topics is technology planning. It matches that. And idealware.org has a lot of fantastic resources on exactly that.
Free software selection guides for pretty much any topic. You usually have to put in your name and email address in order to download the reports, but they're all free. Idealware, they themselves, like TechSoup, are a nonprofit. So they do software reviews and analysis of all kinds of different software that help out. Very helpful. They don't update everything constantly, but it's still a really good way to frame your thinking. Is that if you've ever used consumer reports, especially if you're like going to buy something you're not familiar with, usually in consumer reports, there's like, here's what you need to know about how refrigerators work. And the Idealware reports are kind of framed the same. These are the key features of these systems. If you are this kind of an organization, you might be looking for these features. If this profile of an organization describes you, think about these things. And that's before you even get into the details of which product, but it just talks more broadly about what information is probably going to be
And just as an aside as well, like as you go forward, you have our contact information. We literally do want to help you solve your problems. So if there is something that you're trying to solve and we can produce, an educational forum like this that helps you learn how to do that, that's what we're here for. So feel free to reach out to us. Let us know what you're struggling with, and we'll see if we can,
And how do you guys know the
Is anybody on Nonprofit Happy Hour on Facebook? So there's some posts that'll make you cry, but if you are willing to wade through a lot of stuff, there's a lot of great. There's a search function with the group, and And so any piece of software you might have questions about, search for it. There will be endless discussions that, similar to Read the Comments, there's a lot of really helpful things. Or if you have a question, pose it. If you're not on Facebook, there's a lot of helpful Facebook groups out there. Encourage it for professional purposes. Never intend to post it.
To get at this other question, I think your question, right? For small organizations, it's probably more feasible than larger organizations with annual retreats. With the folks in your organization to do check-ins and say, is the solution working for you? And how we all collaborate together across the organization. That'll tell you when you need to replace some software, upgrade your software. So it hits on kind of a lot of these buckets that we talked about today. With large organizations, it's harder, but maybe C-suite or executive retreats where you're doing check-ins with the folks who are running departments, kind of unpack those troubleshooting pieces at least every other year. But for smaller orgs, it's usually do it every year. And particularly grassroots organizations, the retreat model is actually pretty well received, and it's something that's very tied to social justice and sort of frameworks. So running an organization through the lens of social impact, constant check-ins or annual check-ins are actually mission aligned. So that's not really too regular. You go to the Red Cross and you're like, maybe in the C-suite, but not organization.
Oh, can you just the last question again?
Okay, one other thing that concerns me too is that a lot of times the conversation is around back office use of technology. So reporting, database, analytics, all of that. But it's something about that is frustrating because we live in a time where so much of technology is user enabled. You know, I can, get a mortgage on my cell phone. And so it seems that, the data entry conundrum that nonprofits and government haven't left the 50s, where why can't nonprofits have more opportunity for customer-facing activities so that the clients they serve can enable the functions that they're looking for the nonprofit without it being come into the office, fill out a piece of paper, leave a paper with me, now let me work with the data entry and data quality. So
look in Idealware for case management. I don't know what sector you're speaking of specifically within the nonprofit.
well, case management is a big part of it.
Yep. So there are case management solutions for a wide range of budgets.
With customer-facing portals and
portals.
data, self-service data entry kind of stuff.
Entry. The goal is to put as much of the data entry responsibility
Amen.
as close to the client.
Thank you, Jesus.
So you're not having the how many different places do I have to take this person's name and date of birth. Amen.
And another free resource for everybody, out of here, a nonprofit that operates out of here, it's called the Difference Engine, and they build custom, it would be working with designers and developers that are out of non-traditional paths. They will build you an MVP for free. So that's just something else. You don't have to go, it's totally voluntary, so you do not have to go down that path.
If you want inspiration, of people thinking outside the box and using technology to meet outpacing missions directly with the client, look up Caravan Studios from TechSoup. Caravan Studios is doing some really cool things, like they have an app for people that are suffering from domestic abuse to find housing. So it's like an interactive app, and so it's thinking outside the box and actually using technology directly to solve a social issue rather than just an enabling and org to meet that problem.
You say at Caravan Studios at TechSoup?
Yeah. They've done some crazy, just outside the box thinking of addressing a sector issue or a social sector issue rather than enabling an org to meet that problem. And it's really interesting thinking. And there's some good case studies. I don't think there's a lot of great examples yet, but that's what I'd love to see as a sector.
What about to create like video content or something, small ones? Do you recommend any companies? Sites.
Fiverr. Yeah, I mean, for small nonprofits, there are online forums where you go and you put your project on there and folks will get on it. And basically, there's Fiverr, what is the other one? What, you told me how to go.
Can't remember. You talking about like freelancers?
Yeah, for freelancers.
Oh.
I mean, TaskRabbit, that's a
No,
little
that's
more
not
like
true.
labor as opposed to tech-based.
Isn't there a gig one? That gig?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that would be Taproot.
and Taproot,
You
yeah.
can like fill out a brief and then you get to go like, anything, like.
Like that's pro bono, but like if your project might be too big to do pro bono, you can find someone who can get on it and be able to do it. I mean, and this is local, it's digital stuff, you send them the rough footage, tell them what you want, and they'll bid on bid a certain amount of money for you to pay to get that outcome or whatever product.
So I want to give time for people to exchange information and that we only have this room for 6 more minutes. So, but we still have the item available that was food. So I want to thank our 3 panelists. Yeah.
We have a request for a group picture? Yeah, that's exactly what I was asking. So we're gonna take a groupie?
Yeah, can you take a picture of them?
Yeah. You just want a picture, you get?
The better version. Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Picture, three.
Okay, you guys stand there.
Awesome.
Everyone, photo?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we get a groupie of everybody? And then,
Yes.
Yeah.
and if somebody has long arms,
You want to take us?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Ron, we want